But I'm also going to be honest with you, as many of you are here for Ted's talk. He stayed in Steamboat last night. I actually went through east of South Canyon right at 2:30, and I saw this amazing rainstorm happen, and then all of a sudden I saw these rocks falling, and then I saw this huge mud coming down, and I literally saw the impact of the mudslides hitting the cars and pushing them up against the concrete median there, and seeing the people trapped.
Cool.
Yeah, amazing, you know. So, but I immediately knew there I had passed South Canyon, so I was stuck in Glenwood, because I knew at that point it was going to be stuck. So I got stuck in Glenwood. I waited for nature's educators to show up, and then we made the long trek around through Steamboat, Craig, and in. Got in about 12:30. I'll be honest with you, I have not slept. So as amped up as I wanted to be for this, I'm going to be a little bit down. I have not fallen asleep, but I am going to do the best I can. So the talk that we're going to do today is a very interesting talk. It's a very special talk, and the reason why is because when we get into this deeper, you're going to find out that the subject matter that I picked is actually not very well known yet. It hasn't been studied extensively or in depth by scientists. It's been recently hypothesized. It's been viewed by just regular people asking questions and intriguing scientists to look into this. Something that I'm intrigued in, and I wanted to find answers, and so looking into this, these are kind of the answers I talked about, or that I found that I'm going to talk about. When doing this presentation, I have found that it is very hard to talk about the communal feeding habits of golden eagles with large mammalian kills if you don't really understand the bird. And so these pamphlets that I passed out, we're going to talk about them, and we're going to really get into in-depth about the golden eagle and understand the bird and how it goes about getting its prey or its quarry. And then from there, we'll talk about the ideas, and everybody's going to become scientists. We're going to become an open discussion, and we're all going to come up with reasons why we believe the golden eagles allow for communal feeding. So without further ado, let's bring out our most majestic, look at the flight, oh my lord, that was picture perfect. I planned it perfectly. So this beautiful male is named Aurora, and I'm gonna wait to get a little bit away from the speaker so I don't blow his eardrums out there. Even though he's not an owl, he still does have hearing. This golden eagle is actually a North American subspecies. They're about the medium size. The smallest golden eagles in the world are on the island of Japan, and the largest ones live in the Himalayas. So the North American species actually, I can't turn towards the wind, sorry, I'll get out of your way. The North American species is actually about a medium-sized species. So, and for this male, he's actually pretty small for a male. They actually do get bigger. In captivity, they usually get a lot bigger. So, not really sure why. Do you guys know why?
He was struck by a car.
Okay, so this male they believe was struck by a car. That's kind of why he has a drooped wing, and so that probably would be a reason why he has stunted his growth. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to be talking about the golden eagle, Aquila chrysaetos. Why do I say this? This is a scientific name. Well, it's hugely important to talk, when we talk about animals, to talk about the scientific name. For an average person that just likes to look at birds and understand them, it might not be as important. But for scientists, researchers, people like Ted, who's trying to communicate with other people, when you have birds that live in different areas of the world and languages are different, the common names are not always the same. The Latin language, the scientific name, is the universal language. That's how we talk to other countries in different languages, and we confirm that we're talking about the same bird. Hawks here are sometimes known as buzzards in Europe, and so on and so forth. So Aquila chrysaetos, let's break the name down. Aquila means eagle. Well, obviously here we have eagle. Chrysaetos is golden hue, golden nape, golden neck, many different meanings, but we have golden and eagle. So we know that Aquila chrysaetos means golden eagle. If you were to tell this to a scientist in Japan, they'd know exactly what bird you were talking about. Now, if you open your pamphlets, I'm going to have to kind of look as I go. I'm sorry, I'm really tired, so I'm going to scan really quick, and then I'll just talk about it. As you guys can see, golden eagle, we have a third name there now, Canadensis. That is actually known as the You have your genus, you have your species, and then you have your subspecies. Subspecies is canadensis. That tells you what part of the world this bird is from. Canadensis means North America. So this is the North American golden eagle. The little chart that you see below that, you'll see 9 classifications. Well, that's going to upset the bird really bad. Yeah. Don't worry about these. Don't worry about these. Ignore those. The little chart you guys see there is 9 steps. That's hugely important. That's known as a kingdom. There's 9 steps to classify any living creature on the planet. Humans, plant, bacteria, and animals. So by doing these 9 steps, no matter what you're talking about on the planet, living species, you will come to a single species. 9 steps for billions of species on the planet when you count viruses, bacteria, plant life, and animals. So let's go down with this. So domain is eukarya. Eukarya is a really big word, it's Latin. There's 3 domains. The other 2 are bacteria, we won't worry about those. All plant life, all animal life, humans, we all fall under eukarya. So that domain lets you know that you're in a living species, plant or animal. Next you have your kingdom, which is Animalia. Well, that lets you know now you're talking about an animal, not a plant. Phylum, Chordata. Humans are Chordata. Most birds, most animals are Chordata, excluding octopus and squids and things like that. There's 3 things you need to fall into that family. One is basically a false tail. You need a notochord and then a hollow sectioning of the spinal column. You need you need all 3 of those at one point in your life. Humans have those. Believe it or not, you do have a false tail when you're an embryo. Class is aves. Great, now we know that we're talking about a bird. Your order is Accipitriformis, which is what Ted talked about, breaks it down into eagles, vultures, and hawks. Even though vultures are different, they still are broken down into that Accipitriformis family, the Cathartis family. But they're still grouped into the Accipitriformis. Then you get into your family Accipitridae, which is separating your hawks and your eagles. Your genus is Aquila. We now know we're talking about an eagle. Chrysatos is golden, and Canadensis. We now, with those 9 steps, know we're talking about a North American golden eagle. And it's that simple. You can talk about any species on the planet with 9 steps. IUCN are the guys. Those are the guys. When you want to know if an animal is rare, extinct, endangered, least concern, vulnerable, those are the guys. They're the ones who classify every single living thing on the planet with one of those. IUCN is International Union of Conservation of Nature. As you can see, least concern, that's the highest level you can get. Humans are least concern, golden eagles are least concern, European starlings would be least concern. Although they are least concern, they are actually declining pretty much through the vast majority of their range worldwide. And we're going to talk about worldwide here in a second. I mentioned this is pretty important. I actually wrote this down in order of what exactly human loss is for the golden eagle. So our direct contribution, the number 1 is habitat loss, obviously, encroaching into their environment, towns, cities, the more people we put out here. Habitat loss is the number 1 human encroachment that they have. The next is vehicle collisions. Believe it or not, such as this golden eagle, they actually have a large part of their diet requires, or doesn't require, but involves carrion such as deer and elk on the side of roads. So golden eagles are actually struck at a pretty high rate from vehicles. Electrocution is obviously the next one that I have written there, through power lines, just getting arcs. Illegal killing through poisoning, hunting, ranchers and farmers are pretty notorious for that. And we'll get into that later because of livestock depredation. Legal killing. This is a pretty crazy one. When I say this, people are wondering what I mean by legal killing. It's a bird of prey. It's federally protected. You can't kill it. Normally that's true. However, for the golden eagle, it's not. Wind turbine companies are able to file for a permit that allows them to dispatch of invasive golden eagles that are building nests in the wind turbines and things like that. The reason why is, I don't know if anybody's ever Googled a YouTube video of a wind turbine burning down, but it's quite impressive and it's catastrophic. And so they are able to file for permits and go about it legally that way. And then last but not least is wind turbine strikes. They don't happen often. They do happen. Hey, there you go. Perfect. They do happen. It's pretty rare for a bird to just want to fly through a spinning object, but at at certain points of the time it does. Let's talk about our description of the bird. So you'll see that for the most part it is a dark chocolate brown color. And then unfortunately here, but if the wings were open, can you actually turn them a little bit side there? See if he settles down. When the light hits them, maybe not. Keep doing it. There we go. The primaries and the secondaries you can see are that dark chocolate brown, and then up top you have your milk chocolate up on the coverts of that. For this guy, actually the sun's in the perfect spot right on the back of the neck, which is just behind the head, and then the nape, which is a little lower. You get that golden hue color where they receive their name. And I can tell you, for anybody that's a birder, up to 100 yards, if that bird turns and the sun hits them right, even at 100 yards, you can spot that golden color pretty vibrantly. In fact, there's ravens out here that are just massive. And you'll sit there and you'll watch for a second and be like, is that a golden eagle or is that a raven? And when they make that turn and that sun hits them, you know instantly that you're looking at a golden eagle. Juveniles have a lot of white. This guy, although he's an adult, he does have an unusual amount of white in him. Usually on the inner parts of the wing they have long white patches, and then underneath the tail, what you can see there has a very predominant white coloration. Let's talk about length. These lengths are 27.5 to 33 inches. Again, the smallest being the Japanese golden eagle would be 27.5 average, and then the Himalayan golden eagle, which would be 33 inches. This guy's obviously going to be a little smaller, but our birds here in North America would average out about 30 inches. Females would be 30, 31 inches. Males obviously a little smaller. Your weight is going to be 6.5 pounds to 13.5 pounds. Here in North America, they average about 9 to 11 for the females. Males obviously a little smaller. Wingspan 6 feet to 7.25 foot. Out here, they make it to just about 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" for the females. And then the halix. Anybody know what the halix is? What am I talking about when I say halix? It's a very important measurement when it comes to raptors, and there's a reason for it. The halix is the back toe of the foot. It's the talon of the back foot right there. And it's absolutely massive. There are other eagle species that have even larger, but for the golden eagle, they can get up to 2.5 inches. Here in North America, they average about 2 inches, pushing 2.25. But in the Himalayas, they can get up to 2.5 inches. It's just it's a massive dagger. In fact, Skip, do you mind if we borrow your golden eagle and we can pass that one around? Just the golden eagle one would be fine. Sure. And we'll pass it around so everybody can get a close look at what that halix talon looks like on there. And then the lifespan up to 35 years in the wild. That's obviously not a definite number. The way they've measured that is a bird is banded when it's first hatched and fledged, and then what happened was 35 years later that same eagle was recaptured and identified through that band. So it was still alive at 35 years. So they say up to 35 years. It obviously could be longer, but in captivity there's been eagles that have made it all the way up to 50. Habitat. Golden eagles range from a huge range of habitats. Their favorite is sub-arid and desert, which is perfect out here in the western slope of Colorado. But you can find them all the way up in the Arctic and even tundra areas. The golden eagle is I put this in here, I had parentheses around, I actually erased those, I apologize, but a circumglobal northern hemispheric species. I made a very fancy term because I couldn't find one. Does anybody know what I mean by that? Circumglobal northern hemispheric species. North of the equator. Perfect. You nailed it. I couldn't find a term for it, so I'm coining this now, ladies and gentlemen. Ted, please take this with you. Everybody, teach the world about the circumglobal northern hemispheric species, and that's exactly what it means. The golden eagle is found around the entire Earth in the northern hemisphere. You can find it in North America, Europe, Northern Africa, Asia, and even on the island of Japan. It is not found south of the equator. In fact, it's almost never seen south of the Tropic of Cancer, and it's almost never seen above the Arctic Circle. And nesting above or below those two lines is almost unheard of. So it lives at a very narrow gap there, pretty much from northern parts of Canada, southern Alaska, into the northern parts of Mexico and across. Nesting, it makes a large stick nest, a lot like a bald eagle, not nearly as large, but they tend to nest on cliff faces, and then onto man-made objects. Cliff faces are huge. Why are we talking about the golden eagle out here, cliff faces? What do we have a lot of out here? Cliffs. Pretty much, the answer for me is always the easiest answer you can think of. So we have cliffs. We have the Roan Plateau. We have the Book Cliffs. If you move up into Dinosaur and Rangeley, there's even more places. They nest on the eastern side as well. Boulder Canyon's a great place to see them. Ted's from Boulder, but I've been out there and seen them out in that area as well. But out here we just have a large population of golden eagles. In fact, the northwestern part of the state has the largest population. If you go out to Moffett County, Rio Blanco, or here in Garfield, there's a good chance that you will see a golden eagle. I can promise you, if you go out to Rangeley or Dinosaur, you're going to have a huge, almost 100% success rate. I won't say that because you're not guaranteed to see one, but I almost always see a golden eagle sitting on a telephone pole once I get up into Moffett County. And I usually see multiples throughout the day. So our gestation, I'm not really going to go through this. You guys can kind of see that. This is not really going to pertain to what we're talking about, but I wanted to let you guys have that information. Voice. Adults will yelp, mew, and whistle, mainly during mating season. The golden eagle is a really beautiful call of the bird. I love it because it's a lot like an osprey, but slightly different. The osprey drains out its call a little bit longer than the golden eagle, but the golden eagle sounds much different than the bald. Golden eagles have a very soft, almost musical whistle, and it sounds to where if you ever get out to a lake or so, you'll have an osprey, and they drain it out a little bit longer. Ospreys are sounds a lot like when you're trying to cross the road and you push that button, you get that new whistle chirp that they have in rifle, and that sounds exactly like, every time I hear it, I'm looking for ospreys in the air, and I figure out somebody's trying to cross the road. Let's get into the bulk of what we're going to talk about. Now that we know more about the golden eagle, we're going to get into much more detail about this particular one and use it as an object. But let's get into it. Food. The golden eagle is a magnificent predator. In fact, out of all the bird species, there's nearly 10,000 that are known. I have to admit, I think the golden eagle is the ultimate predator. I think it is the apex predator. There are larger eagles out there, harpies, material eagles down in Southeast Asia, much larger eagles, but none quite have the ability that the golden eagle does. Does anybody know what the fastest bird on the planet is?
Hummingbird.
Peregrine hummingbird, close. Peregrine falcon was right. Peregrine falcon is the fastest bird. Does anybody know how fast it can dive?
200. 220.
Keep going.
320.
260 is pretty close. So 250 is what it's topped out at, and the research that they did for that, which was in Scotland off the cliffs, the instruments that they used only went up to 250. So they actually don't even know still today what the absolute top speed is of a peregrine falcon. They average about 220, 230 in a stoop, but they have hit all the way up to 250. That being said, with the falcon species, does anybody know what the second fastest bird in the world is out of almost 10,000 species?
Duck hawk.
What's that?
Duck hawk.
Not the duck hawk. Anybody know?
Golden eagle.
Golden eagle! He nailed it on the head. Believe it or not, this big bird right here is the second fastest bird on the planet. Now, mind you, this is a small male. Females can get a lot larger. Do you need the little arm brace? Okay. If his arm starts shaking, point at me and I'll get him his little arm brace. Eagles get heavy over time. They're actually a very large bird, but they're actually the second fastest bird. Peregrine falcons average they fly straight out about 35-40 miles is what they top out on a narrow flight on average. But they have hit speeds of up to 60 miles an hour in a dead sprint. Golden eagles top out about 25-28 in a level flight. However, they do beat the peregrine falcon in a straight level flight. They've been clocked multiple times at 80 miles an hour in a level flight. Peregrine falcons can dive up to 250 miles an hour, or stoop as it's known. Golden eagles, second fastest bird on the planet, as large as it is, can hit 200 miles an hour in a stoop. clocked multiple times at that speed, or right around that speed. They average about 120, but they have been known to hit up to 200 miles an hour. So this is the second fastest bird on the planet. It has a huge helix talon. It has a very large brain, large eyes. It also has, up to date, 7 known hunting methods. 7 different ones that are confirmed through science that it uses different stoop and dive techniques. It tries to get below the tree line and come up over a target that might be in a field. It's been known to even use the sun as a distractor and hunt in pairs. Its #1 prey item is the blacktail jackrabbit, believe it or not. It's actually in North America. It makes up, in certain areas, almost 100% of its diet. In southern Idaho, Utah, Nevada, places like that, in areas with large blacktail jackrabbit populations, it's almost 100% of their diet. Out here, it's also the same thing. Jackrabbits out here are the main prey items. That being said, they have a very unique way of hunting blacktail jackrabbits. Because they're so fast and agile, when they're paired up, they will one of the mates will dive down and fly side by side with it. Because if he's getting tired, you can put him away. Okay, everybody take a look. Enjoy. You go. I don't blame you. I just want to go too. The drums in my head are awesome. So the blacktail jackrabbit, as it runs, it's running fast, it's zigzagging through the sagebrush. The golden eagle has to figure out a way to hunt it. And they've come up with a way. Eyes in front, you're meant to hunt. Eyes on the side, you're meant to hide. Remember that. It is a predator. Its eyes are in front, it's meant to hunt. Rabbits have their eyes on the side. Even though they see 2 different things at the same time, their brain can only register one or the other. They have to concentrate on one eye. Even though they see 2 opposite sides of their head, their brain focuses on one. So the golden eagle, one of the mates will dive down and fly alongside of it. And as they fly right alongside, as the jackrabbit is zigzagging, its eye is focusing on that one. The second mate comes in from the other side and nails the jackrabbit because it's concentrating on the one it's looking at. And that's a unique hunting style. I got a really quick fact I gotta tell you. Ted might like this one. There are many animals that are pack hunters, pair hunters, and they actually find that they have high success rates in hunting. Lions, wild dogs of Africa, cheetahs have been known to hunt in packs when they have multiple brothers. They'll stick together up to 2 or 3. Wolves, coyotes, animals like that, they have higher success rates when they hunt in packs. The golden eagle is one of the very few creatures on the planet that actually lowers its success rate when it hunts with its mate. So their hunting success rate is actually higher when they hunt solitary than when they hunt with pairs. Science doesn't know the answer. I looked for weeks on this and I haven't been able to find the answer. Ted, do you know why? I looked for weeks, and statistically speaking, they have a pretty good gap on the difference of hunting. And they're one of the few creatures on the planet that do that. They choose to hunt in pairs, but they have a lower success rate. It's very unique to golden eagles. There's very few animals out there that do that. There's just success in numbers. With that being said, there are over 400 species that have been confirmed killed by a golden eagle. These are not animals that were attempted to be hunted and the eagle broke off and missed the kill. These are animals that have all been seen and confirmed and documented that the golden eagle has hunted and physically killed. So over 400 species, pretty much anything it can sink its talons into, it will hunt. But I want to talk about a few that I listed here. Blacktail jackrabbits is the first one I listed because it is the main prey source of them. Hares, rabbits, ground squirrels, prairie dogs, marmots, cranes, swans, deer, which we're going to get into in just a second, domestic livestock, which is a reason why there's illegal killing of these, mountain goats, bighorn sheep, pronghorn, coyotes, badgers, bobcats, and even seals. Seals, those are huge animals. How do you think these guys hunt seals? Does anybody know?
Got a will within their heart, brother. They have a will.
They do. Does anybody guess? Go ahead and throw out some answers. Let's hear it. Don't be shy. We're all here to learn. How do you think they're hunting seals?
They're probably hunting the babies small.
Good job. So it's one of the few animals they're not taking full-grown animals. The reason why is because seals, when they get full-grown, have 6 inches, 8 inches, of blubber depending on the species. A 2.5-inch talon is not going to penetrate past the blubber. However, small pups and medium-sized seals are perfect targets and have actually been confirmed being seen hunted by golden eagles. But now we're going to get into the fun part. We're going to get into the communal feeding habits of large mammalian kills. What do we mean by that? What's a large mammalian kill?
Deer.
Perfect. Deer. What kind of deer? What size deer are we talking about? Does anybody know what size? I want to blow that speaker, but I gotta come over here.
Chad, if you bring your mic in a little bit closer.
Anybody know what size deer we're talking about?
Oh, fawns.
Fawn.
Good. Fawns. We're actually talking about this size deer. One eagle can hunt a full-grown deer. Does anybody know how a full-grown deer succumbs to a golden eagle?
It has to go to the way the main blood source. Juggler.
Pretty close. It is one of their attack angles. So they attack from above, so they attack the back. And what they found out is that an animal that's diving at 200 miles an hour, right before impact, will open its wings and flare its tail and acts like a parachute. And they found out through studies that golden eagles actually strike at about 60 to 80 miles an hour still on certain targets. So if you can imagine a 2.5-inch talon, that talon that we passed around, hitting an object at 80 miles an hour is basically like a broadhead of an arrow coming out of a compound bow. You're striking, even though the arrowhead is only this big, the force that you're putting into that kinetic energy is creating a much larger impact state. And that's exactly what happens with that talon. It's very sharp at the beginning, but it's very blunt at the end. So as you're impaling this object at a high rate of speed, you're actually creating a lot of pressure. Now that's not enough to kill a deer, obviously. A jackrabbit, absolutely, and things like that. But that's not necessarily going to kill it. But there's a very unique thing. They attack the back of the neck, they attack the back, they attack the spinal cord. And so these talons will hit, and then they close their front. Does anybody know how strong they can close? So there's been studies on it. I've heard 450. There's even guesses of 750. Cornell Lab of Ornithology recently put out a thing and says 1,200 psi. So on the tips of their talons, they're at 1,200 psi. The average human hand, myself, most of you guys out there, 25 psi. So if you can imagine 1,200 psi coming out of the talons and the feet of a golden eagle, it's just a massive amount. And what they do is they will continually grab and squeeze, and they'll grab and squeeze, and they'll grab and squeeze, and it tears up, important arteries and things like that. We won't get into the meat of it, so to speak, but it will eventually, after a few minutes of fighting, it will drop a large kill. The great thing about the golden eagle, we weren't able to do it, but maybe later, they have a clicking noise. And what that is their tendon actually looks like a zip tie. And what happens is it'll close and it locks, close and locks, close and locks, close and locks. And it just gets tighter and tighter, and it's almost impossible for them to release. They actually have another tendon that moves the ligament that allows them to release that talon. Otherwise, they're locked in. Hey, you fixed it, good job. So they're dropping down these large animals. Do you think communal feeding between these birds is happening with badgers or with the blacktail jackrabbits, ground squirrels? Do you think they're openly sharing their food? What is a golden eagle? Is it a group bird? Does it group together? What do you see? Usually you see them solitary, right? Or they're a monogamous species, so they mate for life. So they're known as a solitary or pair species. They're either by themselves or they're in a pair group with another male or female. They don't communally group together like Swainson's hawks or turkey vultures or species like that. So because of that, known as that solitary or pair species, it was known that they were communally feeding, but they didn't understand why. And science still is having trouble understanding why. There's two things they've noticed. One, they've noticed it's only on large mammalian kills. And two, it happens predominantly in winter. So with that known, and science not really understanding that, we're going to open this up now, and everybody's going to become a scientist, and we're just going to openly talk, and we're going to create hypotheses. Hypotheses are awesome because they're just ideas. You can't be wrong. They're guesses, they're thoughts, you're putting it out there, and then it's your job to break it down and come up with a good thesis. So let's come up with some hypothesis. Why are we seeing communal feeding with golden eagles on large kills? Can anybody Anybody throw out some ideas?
Food is scarce in the winter, so it's survival of the species. They
Okay.
share it.
Okay, so they're sharing it in wintertime with when there's more food to be seen. Good. Any other ideas?
If you share your food, they'll share their food with you.
Yeah, good. So if you kill something this time and you share it, maybe next time they kill something and they'll share with you. That's a good thought. What else?
It's a lot of meat.
They get too full.
Yeah, they could be too full. You're not wasting meat. You think the bird's smart enough, intuitive enough to know that they don't want to waste food? I'd say so. After Ted's talk over here about how birds have, conscious minds and how much smarter they are, not how much smarter they are, how much we understand how much smarter they are now compared to 15 or 20 years ago, it could be quite possible that they know it's not worth wasting food. I mean, that's a human thought for hundreds of thousands of years as we grew into this civilization life, that wasting was a bad commodity. So these are great ideas. I'm actually with you guys on this one. I think sometimes, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, you do need science to answer questions. You do. I do, however, feel sometimes, every now and then, that sometimes the obvious answer is the one you come up with. Now, I'm not saying that's the case here, but I do like the idea that it's wintertime, there's a large kill, and communally feeding in winter is good for the group. If you're feeding your partner, as Josh said, their success rate later is going to feed you. You're strong today, you got a good attack on a deer, you're feeding the group. Tomorrow you didn't see a deer, but Bob down the corner saw a deer, and Bob got the deer, and so now he's sharing. That's a good idea. I think that's a very plausible answer. This is definitely something that I hope is studied in the near future. It's something that I've really wanted to know, figure out why. It's seen in Siberia, it's seen in North America predominantly. They've seen it in Europe, but from what I've seen in the research, it's mostly in Scandinavia, which is ironic. It's farther north than most areas. They're not seeing it in France, Spain, and Italy as much as they are up north in those areas. Here in the U.S., it's seen predominantly in Canada. It's been studied a little bit in Montana and Idaho, and these are areas where it's seen. Those are farther north. I will tell you, out of all the times I've gone out looking for golden eagles and seeing them, the most I've ever seen are 7 golden eagles on a single deer kill. I don't know if that deer was killed by them. It was off the side of the road and it was outside a dinosaur. But I did see 7 golden eagles at one time. There were 4 adults and there were 3 juveniles, a total of 7. And what I noticed is when Blair and I got closer, the 2 adults took off and 2 juveniles followed. And then these 2 adults took off and went a different way, and that 1 juvenile took off and followed. So it's our belief that it was at least two families at the time. Both those juveniles looked pretty young. This was about August, September, so they were still, sticking with the parents. They were obviously first. They were that first year fledgling. And so, with that being said, up to 7. I've reached out, emailed a couple people. I've had different researchers in Montana that come back and say they've seen 5 or 6 at a time, even more. So it's being noticed. This is something that's actually, when I looked into it, believe it or not, there's actually Indian writings about this in the, Blair, help me out. I'm going to forget this one because I'm tired. Michigan, Chippewa writings up in the northern parts of Canada, Minnesota, and that. When I was doing research into it, there's actually talks about golden eagles grouping together and feeding on large kills such as elk and deer. So it's something that's been known for a long time, but science is still trying to understand why they do it. So let's. I'm going to open up to questions and answers here before the band starts taking off here. So
Well, I had an idea for you.
absolutely, let's hear it.
Probably it may be that they're looking for safety in numbers with other predators trying to take that kill.
And see, that's a really good point you put, because I was actually going to mention that, and I didn't. There's actually a documentary out there where they have 3 eagles on a deer carcass, and they're actually 2 of them are protecting it from crows and magpies that were coming in, and taking turns eating and protecting, a lot like lions do with hyenas and other animals such as that. They were taking turns protecting the kill. So there is safety numbers. You do probably get more meat out of it before too many scavengers take over.
Well, and
Ted. Oh, sorry. Go
Well,
ahead.
not only that, I was thinking wolves more than anything that could kill the eagle.
Absolutely, yeah. If wolves came in, obviously a pack of wolves, they're easily going to chase off even a handful of golden eagles. But if one or two stray ones come in, I definitely could see golden eagles trying to protect that kill.
So this isn't really a question, it's like an idea.
Perfect.
All this work we've been doing recently in the past 20 centuries on the avian mind has sort of been known about in indigenous cultures for a very long time, and we're kind of figuring out different language, different scientific paradigm, but like they knew a lot of this stuff. I wonder if it might be possible like to team up with an anthropologist or just some indigenous peoples and see if maybe they've been documenting this for hundreds of years or
I
something.
think that's a great idea. I mean, I bet. See, it's amazing because we actually, Blair and I, this is a little off subject, but we did a CSU class where they did native plants, the medicinal and edible uses, at CSU with a world-renowned botanist, and she found out that the Utes had a very unique trail that they would take yearly. At certain times of the year, they'd be in certain places, and it took a researcher to go out and figure. And it was I think it was an archaeologist, if I'm not mistaken, that went through and figured out the pattern line and found out that in winter they're in the Grand Junction, eastern Utah. Then they'll start to move up. They'll come up the valleys, same time of year, and by July they do the bear dance, and that'll be up on top of some pretty high peaks. Some of these 14ers have Ute names, and they'd find that they'd be above timberline right around the summer solstice. And then they would start to move back down, and they would move back down into those valleys. Ultimately, they'd make it to North Park and Middle Park, and they would trade. They would do buffalo hunting, and they would trade with the Arapaho, Shoshone, and the Apaches that would come over. Sorry, not the Apaches, the Cheyenne. And they would trade right there in those parks, but then they would move back and they would spend their winters down here in the warmer climates. And it's just something that they knew. And so it's amazing, exactly what you said. They had a pattern that they just had. It took us just recently to go out and draw something and say, oh look, there's an actual date to this, and it was just natural to them. So I really like what you said, because there probably is something where they could tell you, yeah, that's been common knowledge for 1,000 years, and they do it because of this.
There's a whole field called ethnobotany. Maybe it's time for ethno-ornithology.
There should be. And every animal, there should just be ethno-animal. Just everything. You can do it with mammals. You can do it with herpetology with your reptiles. I'm sure there's plenty of research out there to do stuff like that. But I really like that idea, because it probably is common knowledge to a lot of indigenous people. In fact, a lot of our knowledge comes from their experience. Skip.
Following up on the Ute Indians, in the spring they do the bear dance to celebrate the bear coming out of hibernation, and they followed the bear. Is probably why they went to the higher mountains and so forth. They followed the same routes as the bear would, because the bear would come back to the same area in the fall to then get ready to hibernate.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. It's really cool because it's pretty unique to culture. There's other tribes that would do things like that in different groups, but the Utes had a very unique. And it's funny when you look at it, it's not a perfect circle. It's actually like a weird linear curvy line, but it does the same pattern every year. So, any other questions or comments?
Here, brother.
Yep.
Okay, she got a name?
That bird, that was actually a male, and his name was Aurora. Aurora.
Injured in any way?
Yeah, he was hit by a car, so that's why he has that droopy wing. They believe is a broken. Yeah, definitely unfortunately now, because of the injury, he is now an ambassador to the rest of the Golden Eagles. He's out here to teach education and why it's important. So, yeah. Any other?
I was fortunate enough one day to be hiking, and I
Sorry, that's me.
seen two golden eagles flying high in the sky, and one of them went into a dive and dove down and hit a fawn
Oh, wow.
on the side of the hill, and it squealed real loud. And over the top of that hill, the mother came down and she headbutted that golden eagle. He was flapping backwards. He was as wide as that deer was long.
Yeah.
And he flew away, and that little fawn got underneath his mother's legs, and she walked it all the way down the hill to the
That's awesome. Yeah, so golden eagles are actually, it's sad, but it is nature. They're actually notorious in certain areas like the Middle East, Himalayas. They'll actually go after sheep and goat species out there, and they'll actually grab them and carry them off the side of the hill and then release them. It's just a quick way. They don't have to fight and get, everything in nature is a fight to survive. Injuries kill you, They teach you that in any survival class. So an injury nowadays is nothing. You go to the hospital. But if you were truly stuck in the wild and you got hurt, that's a serious thing. Well, it's the same thing for animals. So they try and find the easiest and quickest and least dangerous way for them to kill them. So that's the way that they actually do hunt in certain areas.
That fawn even survived that.
Yeah, depends on how hard it got hit and what damage the talons did. There's deer out there that literally are living with arrows in them and crazy things like that. So there's a good chance that fawn could have lived. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'll end with one story. Blair and I, a couple years ago, we were videotaping a little video series we were trying to make on some wildlife.
People that we've got some more kids games coming up for
Give
the
Peggy
8
1
years
second.
to 11 years old over in the kids corner on the far left of the park. At 3 o'clock we've got some raptors. Nature's educators have got some raptors that they're going to have under the tent to my far left. It would be your right if you're looking at me. And I also want to remind you that we've got cornhole setting up here, and it'll be starting at 2 o'clock. Then we go on to 3:30. We're going to have our watermelon seed spitting contest. At 4 o'clock, we're going to have our pie eating contest. And then following that, we've got our jalapeno eating contest. And then this evening, we've got a band called Ugly Rumor coming in at 6 o'clock. Who we are hearing warm up right now are the Stones. They've been with us 2 or 3 times previously. So we're really thankful to have the Stones coming on board. But remember, there's kids games going on in the park all the time. Raptor Fest is at 3 o'clock. We're going to have some more stuff going on there. And we've got the cornhole game starting at 2 o'clock, and you do need to sign up at the information booth. We've only got 3 teams signed up at this time.
Sign up.
Thank you.
Sign up now. Okay, so they're going to go. So really quick, we're going to talk about this. So Blair and I are filming a little documentary series on some wildlife right out at Rifle Arch. We were filming a scrub jay, and I heard they called. So I looked up. I knew it was a golden eagle. I looked up, and sure enough, there was a golden eagle with a mate. And this is really cool. They're a monogamous species, means they mate for life. As long as somebody doesn't die, they stay together forever. If they die, it goes back to solitary lifestyle until it finds a second mate, or a third or fourth mate, and so on and so forth. When they do their courtship, it only happens once. One time in their life. They don't do it every year. They do one courtship, they decide that that's it, and they decide to mate. It lasts for about 5 minutes. Blair and I heard a call, weird call, looked up, hear these birds doing these cool, look like the ravens, they're doing these cool little dance moves up high, and all of a sudden you see this male just pull up, just like a fighter jet, goes way up, probably 3,000-4,000 feet, and he turns, and he tucks in his wings, rolls over, gives about 2 flaps, just like a peregrine falcon, and he tucks in and gets tight, and he was above the arch, the peak, you could see him, about 3,000 feet, and he dropped, and right behind, he got below the tree line from us, and he popped right back up. It took about 2 or 3 seconds. So he was probably maxing out close to that 200-mile mark. I mean, to watch a bird literally from here fall and just get below tree line, I mean, above a mountain, to the mountain, coming down, and disappear behind the trees and pop up. And then the G-force he must have pulled to pull that was astonishing, but it was great because they did that a little bit, and then they turned and they flew away, and it was quite obvious that the dance that they were doing was the courtship dance. So Blair and I got to see something that lasts 5 minutes in life. We just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So we'll end you guys with that, but hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you very, very, very much.